Rarely do I come across something this brilliant. So I decided to break my silence and make a video essay. Because let me tell you, this movie got me out of a very dark place. In a world filled with anxiety, fear, and insecurity, sometimes we forget that we are surrounded by people and not monsters. But before I get into how this movie affected me, allow me to give you a small blurb about Nimona. Nimona is, well, very much Nimona. Nothing more and nothing less. A punk outcast who has completely abandoned the idea of fitting in. This inability to fit in has made them into a toxic little devil. Meanwhile, Ballister is someone who was given a chance to fit in, but his chance to fit in and become like everyone else was violently stripped away by someone who is in fear of losing what they have. After Ballister was cruelly forced into a position of being an anti-hero who works to redeem himself, Nimona, the embodiment of anarchy, senses someone like them and decides to help him escape the system instead of redeeming himself within the system. But Ballister's self-doubt and insecurity pushes them away. Ballister attempts to reclaim the place he earned in the system, and this push drives Nimona to become what everyone saw them as. Not because they are a monster, but because the system needs an antagonist for it to battle and overcome. But fortunately for Nimona, Ballister saw who Nimona truly was and stopped them from being part of the cruel and sadistic system. Although Nimona and Ballister emerged victorious against the system, the sacrifices they had to make were indescribable. As someone who has utterly failed to become part of the system and was always forced to conform or become an outcast, this movie truly resonated with me. I was constantly drowning in insecurity and self doubt. This made me a deeply toxic and cynical individual. But this movie reminded me how I, much like Nimona and Ballister, saw people as the villains instead of understanding and accepting everyone as people. I saw everyone as people who are against me. But that is not the truth. In fact, much like me, everyone around me were also victims of self doubt and insecurity. This is the source of most of the world's pain and suffering. So, this movie was a breath of fresh air that not only invigorated me but reminded me how to empathize and why I should empathize. So, I urge you to please watch this movie if you haven't, because from here on out, I will be spoiling the entirety.
A long, long time ago, a kingdom lived in peace, believing they had nothing to fear.
After watching this movie, I have to say the whole fear thing, it really ties back perfect in the end.
But lurking in the shadows was a great and terrible evil.
Of course, lurking in the shadows was the monster. Everything was perfect until the evil thing attacked. After watching this movie, watching it again, I just can't believe the level of detail they included, and I'm just so happy. I'm extremely happy about the way this movie went. So, in the beginning, this is how the story is framed, how the system and everyone in the system sees Gloroth and, well, Nimona. Nimona being the monster and Gloroth being the hero who defeated slash slayed the monster. So the culture is literally based around slaying monsters who are evil without understanding why the monsters are evil or why we are fighting them and what the monsters are doing.
Go back to the shadows from whence you came!
Go back to the shadows from whence you came is an amazing line, by the way. Because if the monsters come into the light, everyone will see that the monsters are just like us. They aren't different at all. I mean, I love this movie. Just watching it for a second time, I'm just baffled by every little detail.
Glorith vowed that her people would never be vulnerable again.
Of course, Glorith vowed that her people would never be vulnerable again. Well, they aren't vulnerable in the physical sense, but this battle against the evil has made them vulnerable to the toxicity and hideousness that grew within them. The status quo has been established. Monsters are evil, humans are good, and well, nothing should change because accepting monsters is only going to cause chaos and anarchy, which are only bad things all of the time, right?
I'm Nate Knight,
I'm Alanzapan Davis.
and tonight's the night we night the night.
I mean, the puns are just not my thing, but the story is amazing, and I just love the style, visuals, the music is amazing, and well, the commentary is, you know how I feel about the commentary by now, right?
Because tonight, tradition will be cast aside, and the kingdom will change forever.
This is also kind of, the whole thing about the system offering an out of the system.
No, he doesn't come from a noble bloodline, but he might just have the heart of a hero.
This is a great example of this. The system tries to show you that, well, you can be different, but you should just stay in the system because outside is, well, dangerous. This is amazingly done by, well, the walls.
And Ballister made the most of that chance, graduating top of his institute class.
You should be a hero. A hero is, well, someone who slays monsters. And Ballister, who is outcast, is brought into the system by the queen. The queen was trying her best to bring people into the system because that's the only way she knew how to improve people's lives. So the queen isn't necessarily someone that deserves blame. She was doing what she thought was right, but it ultimately cost her a lot.
With Ballister joining the ranks for the first time in history, our safety will be put in the hands of a commoner.
I also like how the little toys with the swords poking in, and meanwhile the commander, the lieutenant, the general, I'm not exactly sure who that was. I can't really remember the title right now, but I'm sure I will get to it eventually. The person who is consumed by fear, slowly feeding other people the fear of leaving the system. The system is always on the brink of collapse, but fear and self doubt and insecurities hold the system together, and that is what this person is doing.
Will the kingdom accept this knight who might not be right?
So I thought this was a bit on the nose, but I mean, I guess the person who is trying to cast out Ballister is probably in charge of the propaganda, so I can't really have a problem with this. I don't exactly have a problem with this, but it is a bit overt, and it could have been done a little more subtly. That is probably my only complaint about this movie. The whole is he right to be a knight thing, because I mean it shouldn't be a controversial thing. He should be painted as a hero, coming from an underprivileged place, and because anyone can be a hero, right? That's what the system wants you to think. because heroes are good. But here's the thing, in this universe, heroes are the people who slay monsters. So there's a slight difference from heroes who do things because it is the right thing to do, and heroes who slay monsters. I mean, they do make fun of it by, having Ambrosius say it, but it still doesn't diminish the fact that this is way too overt. But it's okay. I mean,
Hey, thinky face. Look at me. You were better and worked harder than all of us.
You're gonna be a knight, Bal.
even before the touching hands thing is given focus, it is shown that Ambrosius is very comfortable around Ballister, and Ballister is very comfortable around Ambrosius. Well, to show us that they are together.
No one hates a hero of the realm.
No one hates a hero of the realm. So this is an interesting thing because Ballister idolized heroes since a young age. So that is why he did his best to become who he is now. This is interesting because a hero is like the protector of the status quo, and well, he is striving to protect the system and the status quo. I just love this detail too.
My lords and ladies, the knighting ceremony is just moments away.
So about the whole gay thing, I like that detail because it paints Ballister even more as an outcast. He isn't just a commoner, he's also well attracted to people of the same gender. There's nothing wrong with that. But both Ballister and Ambrosius know that, well, that isn't exactly going to be accepted by people. They are either going to be viewed as weak, effeminate, and not up to the standards of how men should be. Because in the system, men should be. Point is that the protectors of the status quo are supposed to be strong and virtuous. Being attracted to someone of your own gender is not virtuous according to the standards Gloroth has set. So I really like this detail.
Your sword, and don't touch the cart.
Okay, relax.
Okay, I also like the whole detail about the sword keeper being very insecure about people choosing their own swords. So he hands them exactly the swords he should hand them, and I really like that detail. But it's only going to be comprehensible after some details are revealed.
Ballister, listen, man, I just wanted to say, I know I've always been tough on you, and I never thought you belonged here.
And?
So, about the humor in this movie, I really like the humor in this movie. It's very tongue-in-cheek, and sometimes it's dark, but it's a nice welcome. And by the way, the movie doesn't want you to hate Todd exactly. Todd is painted as a moron, and he is just being a moron, but he's kind of likable because even though he's toxic and terrible, he is adorable, kind of.
Hey, everybody!
Hey, everybody.
Thanks.
Mr.
Hey,
Ballister?
Squire!
Of course, the sword keeper giving Ballister the sword with a very suspicious and insecure look. In the first watch through, I thought he was just not a fan of Ballister, but apparently he is a huge fan of Ballister. But the whole sword having a laser implanted terrifies him, and that's a nice detail. So the sword keeper tried to show Ballister the video about how the general lady, I'm not sure exactly how, the authority figure tampered with his sword and left a laser shooting sword thing. I really liked him. He's fine.
There is no greater calling than protecting this kingdom from evil.
There's no greater calling than protecting this kingdom from evil. because the monsters are evil, and of course this is like the protector of the status quo, and anything that threatens the status quo is evil, and that is what they were indoctrinated into. And she really repeats this sentiment multiple times. Oh, sorry, she's a director. I think I called her general and captain and lieutenant. So she's a director.
Ballister, today the kingdom will see you for who you really are.
Ballister, today the kingdom will see you for who you really are. I love this detail because the director knows exactly what's going to happen. So it's foreshadowing, and this is a great way to foreshadow. I love how Ballister is an inspiration to the underprivileged people there. People, I mean children there, because this is kind of the point of making him a knight, I think. Well, that would also be amazing, by the way, if that was intended. I'm not exactly sure if that was intended, but that detail is very interesting.
My lords and ladies.
And oh yeah, by the way, even with all the machinery and flying cars and everything, they still ride on horses to the ceremony, because this is a status quo. Why would we change that, right? Even though we have all this technology, we are still placing an importance on people wearing bright and colorful armor on horseback. That's just a great detail. This movie is filled to the brim with great, amazing details.
I've been looking forward to this moment.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
By the way, the queen is also part of the system. Even though she is trying to change it, at least progress it a little bit forward, she is still doing it within the system and encouraging others to step up and protect the status quo. And that is what they are saying. In order to become appreciated and inspirational and admired, one needs to be a protector of the status quo and do everything exactly the way they have been done for 1,000 years. I love this detail, and I love the fact that everything happened 1,000 years before is still affecting people and how they think and everything like that.
Hero of the round!
This is also an amazing detail, by the way. Ballister thinks, okay, no one is going to accept him because he is, of course, an outsider who has earned his way to this place. So it is understandable that him being insecure about other people accepting him. It's just amazing because people are accepting him because of his conviction to uphold and protect the status quo. They are not cheering for him, they are cheering for the work he does for the system. I love this detail. I also love the detail that Ambrosius pretty much jumps in and disarms Ballister because, well, that is what he's trying to do, protect the status quo, and Queen is the embodiment of the status quo in certain aspects. Well, the knights and the royalty, everything that still exists, are embodiments of the status quo, like I said before. And the status quo being violated terrifies everyone, including Ballister himself. This puts him on a downward spiral. He has got no place in this kingdom is, well, an interesting thing.
He's perfect.
I'm a girl just like.
And Nimona being like, he is perfect. Seems a bit sinister, but she's just trying to find a place to belong. And by the way, the whole I'm a girl just like thing, Ballister was actually listening to that. I first First of all, I thought that was Nimona, but Ballister. That's also an interesting detail because Ballister has slightly motherly instincts and such, which are not suitable for a black knight, I guess. And the foreshadowing of Nimona's ability to become different animals is also very interesting. I'm sorry if I accidentally call Nimona a she because, well, they are more of a they than a she because they pretty much imply that they are not exactly a girl.
That was
Hey,
weird.
boss.
So yeah, they is a probably more apt pronoun for them. I do also like how Nimona doesn't out and out say that they are. Now I was planning on
thousands of
reacting to the
years
entire
old.
thing,
That is
but
left ambiguous until a later
unfortunately,
point in the movie.
I am a college student, so I am unable to spend that much time editing and reacting. I mean, reacting doesn't take much time. I don't have enough money to hire an editor, so I have to personally edit it. I'm sorry, but there will be a part 2 to this video. And before I explain what the second part is about, I need to explain something else. There is also a through line about identity, and it's also really interesting. But I would prefer to get into that in its own video. But for now, I'll give you a small introduction. Ballister's curiosity and his need to label Nimona is an interesting little detail because every time he asks them what they are, Nimona's answer is always the same. But as the story progresses, Ballister stops questioning them and starts accepting. This mirrors how some people's insistence on defining women or girls so they can disqualify some as not women. I used women because that's a hot button topic and it's what's popular now. This story tells us that it isn't important to label everyone or everything. Instead, we should identify people by how they wish to be identified and what they do, like how Nimona identifies only as Nimona and not as a woman or a man or a girl. There is a lot to talk about regarding this topic, but I will go into detail about Nimona and Across the Spider-Verse and the issue of identity being addressed in these fascinating little movies. But overall, this is a great movie. Now, this is my personal opinion, but I think Nimona is one of the best animated movies of all time. And I think everyone should watch it because there's a lot we can all learn from this silly little cartoon.